Twitter's fun, isn't it? It's fun. I love spending my time there. Why do I do it? I don't know. So if you were on Twitter, you may have seen the phrase birthing people trending. Birthing people. They're called women, but let me not get sidetracked quite yet. So it started trending because Congresswoman Cori Bush of Missouri shared a video of when she testified before Congress about her experience of almost losing 2 of her children during childbirth. Her testimony talked about how she believed that there was something going wrong and that the doctors dismissed her. And I can only imagine how horrible that is. And I can admire her for taking the time to testify before Congress about that issue. But what I found interesting was the choice to use the term birthing people in her tweet. And to some of you, that might seem like not a big deal, or, well, it's an inclusive term, but this isn't the only instance of inclusive terms. There has been a trend happening. Other terms that are following this trend are terms like chest feeding or chest milk, which are terms that are being encouraged in the UK for midwives to use. And also Tampax recently did a campaign using the term people who bleed. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the whole thing. It sucks to bleed for 7 days every month out of the year for basically, I don't know, 35 plus years of your life. But, you know, we're just people. It's just people who bleed. People who bleed. I mean, anyway. So I shared some of my ideas on Instagram, and then I decided to come here and share a few more because why not? That's what the internet is for anyway, isn't it? So before I get started, if you like this content and any other content that you've seen of mine, I would encourage you to subscribe and ring that bell. Leave a comment, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, do the same thing. I encourage some feedback, and I've been working on a new project lately. It's been consuming a lot of my time. It is a community of women that focus on femininity, self-reliance, and freedom. And if this sounds like 3 values that are important to you, I would encourage you to check it out on my website. The link is down below, libertasisters.com, and let's get into this video. All the terms that are being used by the left for the sake of inclusivity all seem to be terms that erase what is unique about women. And ironically enough, they're all terms that are very specific to women. You would think that feminists would kind of have an issue with this, but the truth is that feminism, in partnership with Marxism, has been working to erase gender in general for a long time. This isn't anything new. One of the main strategies of feminism is to masculate women and emasculate men. You see this in media, you see this in television, you see this all over the place now. And now you're seeing it in the ungendering of language. It's this push to create a complete neutrality. There's no line, there's no difference, there's nothing special and nothing different between the genders. And before you get on my case, I know you're gonna come at me with gender is different from sex, yet I find interesting that there is an effort to completely change your gender and meet some societal standard of a specific gender, but then at the same time, we're trying to create a gender neutrality. I feel like there's a disconnect here. What I find interesting is that people will go through all this effort to change their gender to meet a gender's construct, but at the same time, there's really not supposed to be any differences between the genders, unless you're transitioning. I'm not really surprised by all this. This isn't anything new. This isn't a new effort from feminism. Second wave feminism for a long time has believed that the ability to reproduce is a hindrance to women. It hinders the ability of women to reach their full potential, to succeed in whatever they may choose. And this is one of the reasons that the pill and legalized abortion was so important to feminists. Now, although I can fully acknowledge the benefits of contraception and the fact that it gave power and control to women to choose when it was best for them to have children, the consequences of legalized abortion have been horrifying. According to data from the CDC and the Guttmacher Institute, 62.5 million abortions have happened since Roe v. Wade. That's over 1 million a year. Think about that. That is twice the amount of people that have died from COVID. But why would you want to put that into perspective? And here we are now, with the left doing their absolute best to ungender language with terms like birthing people, pregnant people, chest feeding, chest milk, which sounds like a condition, let's just be honest, and people who bleed. The claim is that this is all done for the sake of inclusivity, and I don't discredit that. But it wouldn't be so easy for these women to embrace this ideology if they weren't already predispositioned to erase what it means to be a woman. You see it in media, movies, television, music, it's all over the place. Women are now constantly portrayed in roles that are typical or have masculine traits. They're either commanding a boardroom, they're blowing things up, or they're sleeping around to the heart's content. And I'm not saying that you can't do that. If you choose to do that, you go, do your thing. Is it my thing? Not so much. I could probably kick a door down though if I wanted to. However, that's not the issue here. Because while women are being portrayed in these roles with masculine traits, men are portrayed as dumpy dopes that have no idea what to do with themselves. And yes, a woman is free to do whatever she chooses. That is the wonderful thing about today. We are not limited in choices. We have a plethora of choices. But I just find it interesting that media in general do not portray innate, beautiful feminine traits, things that are nurturing, having a family, giving birth, just taking care of the people that you love and advocating for them. That doesn't mean that you can't do it while you are successful in your career, but you just never see that story hardly anymore. Now, let me just be clear that I do not think that you have to give birth in order to be a woman. I myself am unable to have children without some medical intervention, but that does not make me less of a woman or make me not a woman. Because if I did choose to carry a child, if I did choose to seek medical intervention to help me carry a child, I would be able to, because I am a woman. The fact is that trans men are biologically women. It doesn't matter what they identify as. They wouldn't be able to carry a child or give birth if they weren't biologically female. Now, please don't hear something I am not saying. People within the trans community absolutely merit and deserve our compassion. And how a full-grown adult decides to deal with their mental illness is completely up to them. And it is, in fact, a mental illness. It is gender dysphoria. And I don't know what's happening here. I don't understand why we can't acknowledge that gender dysphoria is a medical illness. We've moved so far to become accepting of mental health conditions, but now we as a society are expected to completely disregard or conveniently forget that this is a mental health condition. When did it become okay to just simply accept somebody's delusion? And I know the word delusion might seem really harsh, but when you believe something that isn't true, that is the definition of a delusion. The percentage of women that suffer from gender dysphoria is very small, and it makes no sense to me, in my opinion, to completely ungender and change language for such a small percentage of the population. I find it ironic how leftists will advocate that a small majority can rule over the minority, but yet in this case, they want a micro minority to dictate to the majority what they can or should and shouldn't do with their language. What I find even more interesting is that gender dysphoria is a condition that disproportionately affects men more than women. According to the DSM-5, and that's the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, took me a minute to remember that, gender dysphoria affects 0.005 to 0.014% of the male population, and it affects 0.002 to 0.003 of the female population. And to do the math for you, that's 785,000 to 2.2 million men, or 324,000 to 500,000 women in the United States specifically. And here we are making all of these accommodations for a small group that consists of mostly men. Accommodations such as biological men in women's sports, in women's shelters, in women's prisons, and in spaces that were, until recently, exclusive to women. But I'm getting off topic here. I'm going on a little bit of a rabbit trail because the point of this video that I'm making is that if you're able to give birth, if you're able to carry a child, if you bleed, you are a woman, because it is only women that are capable of doing these things. This should not be a controversial statement. This is biology. This is science. Remember the phrase, trust the science or believe the science? Well, here you go. Science. What strikes me the most is how many women are on board with this messaging. And I will give some of these women the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe that their goal is to erase women or to diminish what it means to be a woman. I'm sure that they're motivated by compassion and empathy, something that sometimes I need to work on. I recognize that. But I warn you, this compassion and this empathy, although admirable, it makes you vulnerable and, dare I say, complicit to the erasure of what is unique about women. I encourage you, ladies, to do yourself and all of us a favor. Don't allow yourself to be ruled by your emotions and protect what solely belongs to women. That's all I have for you today. I'm sure that this will probably ruffle some feathers and some other people will thoroughly enjoy it. That's how these topics go, right? There's always two sides. If you like my content and any other content that I put up, I encourage you to subscribe, give it a ring so you get notifications, because otherwise you probably won't hear from me again. And leave a comment below, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like me, go ahead and tell me. It's okay. You can't hurt my feelings, even though you may want to. And I'll see you guys on the next video.
Let us recommit our efforts and support to ensure that every birthing person across this nation is empowered and feels safe.
We have not created an infrastructure to support birthing people.
All pregnant and birthing people deserve to be treated with love.
Health equity for Black birthing people is attainable.
Mothers and babies and Black birthing people are important.
We desperately need long-term fixes to support the healthcare needs of Black women and birthing people.
The most marginalized Black and Indigenous birthing people.
To systemically shift the way we approach health care for birthing people of color.
And respectful of Black women and birthing people.
The maternal mortality crisis among Black birthing people in the United States.
Black birthing people.
And birthing people.
For birthing people.
Black birthing people.
And our Black birthing persons. For all birthing persons in Louisiana.
That birthing people want doulas and midwives.
And support for birthing people during the postpartum period.
There are not enough Black workers of color, leaving Black birthing people with limited autonomy or opportunity.